Starting with a bar of 1084 high carbon steel. You're going to want to draw out your knife pattern to what you're looking for, any kind of custom shape. Next we're going to move on to the cutting out the shape. We're using a 4-inch angle grinder. So now you're going to want to cut out the tang. For this knife we're going for the hidden tang design. After you finish cutting out the rough shape, you're going to want to grind down to the marks that you drew. Once you've ground down your marks, you're going to want to smooth out all the edges. Now I know a lot of us don't have belt sanders, but you can do this using sandpaper nailed to a board or even with a file. Alright, so after all your edges are cleaned up, you're going to want to draw out the edge. You can do this using a Sharpie and a straight edge. Alright, next you're going to grind down the edge. You're going to want to keep the angle grinder at a slight angle. Now we've switched this to a flat disc to even out all the edges. Alright, so now we have the basic knife shape. Now we're going to drill the holes in the tang to be pinned later. Remember, if you're holding your knife in a vise, make sure you have something wrapped around it so you don't scratch the edge of your knife, because metal on metal contact will do that. At this point, the blade is now ready for heat treat. Alright, so what we're about to show you is completely optional when making a knife. What we're going for is the traditional Japanese technique of claying the blade. It's whenever you clay the spine, So whenever you harden your blade, you're going to have a soft spine, but a hard edge. Okay, so for this technique, you're going to want to apply a thin layer of clay to the entire blade. What we're using is called Satanite. It's a furnace cement. There are many other options for this, including a charcoal clay base that you can make in your backyard. After a thin layer is applied to the entire blade, you're going to want to apply a thick layer to the spine of the blade. Once you've applied the thick layer, you don't have to leave it plain. You can apply some sort of design to it, which will show up in the blade later. Now you can light your forge and get ready to harden the blade. Okay, so to harden this blade we're using a propane forge. You can do this using a charcoal forge that can be made easily. When heating the blade, you want to make sure you have a very even temperature. As the blade starts to get hotter, make sure that you continuously check it with a magnet. Once it's no longer magnetic, you're ready to quench. Alright, first we quench in water. This is to have a very defined clay line. Then we finish the quench in canola oil. To make sure your blade is properly hardened, you're going to want to take a file and run it along the edge of the blade. If the file skids across, it's been hardened properly. After hardening, the blade is like glass, so you have to temper the blade to soften the steel. Softening the steel actually toughens the blade itself, which makes it more flexible instead of bending and breaking. We are tempering this knife at 475 for 1 hour. Alright, so now the blade is hardened and tempered, but we're going to go ahead and end the video now. Thank you for watching, and look out for part 2.